Welcome to another episode of Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Dan, I wouldn't say something like this, but given the way that the past couple of weeks have gone for us on this show, it's been a minute since you and I have just talked to each other by ourselves. So I guess it kind of feels weird to get back into that type of a format.
Hi, my name is Dan.
Yeah.
I'm a Chargers fan. I cover the team a little bit.
Nice to meet you.
What's your name? Yeah. No, it has been a while. And honestly, it's like I was gone for a few days on vacation, and like I feel like it's been 10 years since we talked last. But like you're right, it's been a wild last couple of weeks with the people that we had on. I mean, we had multiple players, Chris Rumpf, we had Asante Samuel Jr., Trey McKitty,
Chris Harris.
Chris Harris. Don't think we're stopping now. You know we got guys up our sleeve. So stay tuned for all of you listeners. But this is Chargers Unleashed. Myself, Dan Wolkenstein, alongside co-host Jake Hefner. You can find us on Twitter at LAC_Unleashed. My good friend Jake Hefner, you can find at Jake T. Hefner. Myself at Chargers Homer. Take 2 minutes, subscribe, leave us a review if you feel we deserve it. We are sponsored by a whole bunch of awesome people up at the top if you're on YouTube. Charger Bolt Family, Brewery X, Manscaped, and Garrison Brothers. So, Jake, it is kind of the dark ages when it comes to the amount of content that folks have. We're in mini camps. Rookies have been in there. We started seeing some new players. Where do we start today?
I think it's just that feeling of excitement to the fact that, yeah, it's nice to see the rookies and the veterans coming back on the field now, albeit 11 on 11 non-contact drills. We heard Coach Staley talk about that there is not going to be any of that type of contact. And with someone in particular, yeah, you don't want to take that type of a chance. Number 33, it is good to have you back on the field. I don't even care if it's in this type of capacity. Just seeing Derwin James back on a football field again, no matter what kind of field it is, no matter if it's not in pads, I don't care. Derwin James is a welcome sight to see.
Yeah, so I mean, we're going to get into the mini camps in general. We're going to get into kind of some of the newest updates with this team. But I think just first and foremost, like you said, seeing some of these guys back in uniform, back at the podium, like seeing Derwin James smile on the podium for the first time in probably a year is remarkable. Being able to see like Drew Tranquil starting to get after it, able to see just a lot of these guys kind of gelling. You start to see some of the feedback that Derwin James has already had on rookies like Asante Samuel, calling him a dog already. I mean, it's hard to not get excited at this time. And that's probably the case for every team. But just looking at the sheer talent, again, asterisk, when healthy,
on paper,
this team is going to be a problem. A problem. So yeah, I know I'm generally the optimist, Jake.
Generally. That's an understatement.
But Jake, this Chargers team with the potential of maybe one trade scenario that we'll talk about in a bit could be Super Bowl contenders. Would you go that far?
I wouldn't go that far. No, I wouldn't go that far.
Oh, always bringing me down.
Stu, somebody's got to do it.
You're the realist.
Yeah.
I'm the optimist. All right, so Jake, we are going to go into that mini camp scenarios and all the things that have gone right so far and all of the feedback we've gotten from beat writers, from players, from teammates, from coaches. But all of Bolt fam has been in quite the frenzy these past few days because of one mediocre, injury-prone wide receiver by the name of Julio Jones. And that is a side dig. There's a little Twitter spat that happened about a injury-prone, quote-unquote, all-pro in Julio Jones. But before we even get into would it work, do you even think it's a possibility? Like, could Telesco pull the trigger? And could he make this happen?
Likelihood, percentage chances. Okay, let's see. The conventional wisdom that every Chargers fan right now is, of course, saying pull the trigger, do it. It all depends on what type of value you're planning and ending wanting to give up. I couldn't even get that sentence out. The Falcons, here, you and I had this discussion before the show today. And I said to you then that there was a 25% chance that the Chargers could get Julio Jones. And after stewing on it for a couple hours, I have now changed my thought process, and it's now being knocked down to a 15%. And I'll tell you why. One, because I'm a realist, and I normally don't like getting my hopes up about certain things, but 2 and 3 are more important. Number 2, with Atlanta coming out earlier this afternoon and saying that they want a first-round pick for Julio Jones and they're staying steadfast on that, do I believe that they're going to get a first-round pick for Julio Jones? Absolutely not. That should not be in any of the cards for any team that ends up acquiring his services. I believe the more likely scenario is you think about a second-round pick and along with a mid-round pick or possibly even a 2023 draft pick if you want to get a little creative. And you and I actually have some scenarios that we've come up with on this based on what the Chargers possibly could give up. But more importantly, number 3, I don't believe that this is a move that Tom Telesco will make just because history has shown that it's not unlikely. We know how much he values draft picks. Say what you will about how he uses those on draft day. But outside of the draft, he hasn't made a trade like this. As a matter of fact, the last wide receiver that the Chargers did trade for that actually did end up costing them a second-round pick was Chris Chambers. Now, in no realm of this universe is Chris Chambers on the same level as Julio Jones. But I'm just taking what I know from Tom Telesco. Historically, he hasn't done a move like this. Historically, he hasn't been that aggressive. This would be an extremely aggressive win now type of move if he somehow pulled this off. And I just particularly don't see him doing it. So when we're looking at these type of scenarios, as I go back to my second reason and saying, okay, well, what could it possibly be that the Chargers would have to give up? I'd say a second, maybe a fourth. Maybe you throw a player in there. You can get Tom Telesco is creative on how he can work the salary cap, and the Chargers do happen to have a little bit of room left. The date you want to key in on is June 1st. Now, a lot of people are saying that we shouldn't expect anything before June 1st. I'm sure the talks are going to heat up. You've already heard the rumors flying around that Julio has his preferences of who he'd want to play for, whether it's the Titans or the Patriots. And, you know, it could all just be agent talk by this whole standards, trying to bump the trade market out. Who knows? But June 1st is the date that you really want to look for because Atlanta can save actually $15 million against their cap space if they end up trading him after that. Remember, he's on still a 3-year, $38 million contract, I think is what he still has remaining. I think it's $15.3 million guaranteed that's still left on that.
And I believe that's front loaded too. The back 2 years of that's actually nice for whoever acquires him. If they
right. And you're talking about a team in Atlanta that currently, as we stand on this day, is in salary cap hell. I mean, literally, they have some of the least amount of open salary cap space on their roster right now. So
they literally can't even afford their draft picks at this point.
Right. So literally, they need every penny, every dollar that they can get right now. So June 1st makes the most sense as far as when the Falcons would then start getting serious about.
So even after June 1st, you're still putting it 15%. Largely because of Tom Telesco's history.
Tom Telesco's history, and I'll couple it with actually reason number 4. You're not the only one that's going to be vying for Julio Jones's bidding services. 31 teams should be on the phone with the Atlanta Falcons right now, and that includes the Chargers. But you got other teams, like has been rumored, the Patriots, that have not been shy to historically trade away a second-round pick for another Atlanta receiver in the past, in Mohamed Sanu. So there's some history there. The Titans, I could definitely see Mike Vrabel being that aggressive guy. And because of where they're at with their team right now, that would be a move that would make sense. But again, you go to the Ravens for crying out loud. I mean, they could do a trade like that. There's plenty of other teams that the Chargers are going to get in bidding wars with. And when I start thinking about the quote unquote aggressive GMs out there, there's probably about 15 that I would say right off the top of my head that would be more aggressive than Tom Telesco, even if it is for a player the caliber of Julio Jones.
So, lots to unpack there. Number one, in terms of bidding war, I think the Chargers are somewhere in the range of top 5 in cap space left right now.
Cap space, they're good. Cap space, they're in good shape. So that part makes sense.
In terms of the bidding war, I don't necessarily think that teams are going to outbid us, nor are they going to be able to afford to take on that salary cap. Now, in terms of Tom Telesco's history, I've heard a few people mention this, and I just have to remind folks, yourself included, Jake, of what Tom Telesco has done these past, let's call it year and a half, that is not like the old Tom Telesco. We've got highest paid players in Keenan Allen and Joey Bosa. Corey Linsley is now the top, or was the top center for 3 minutes before, I forget who it was that re-signed for hire. New stadium, brand new coaching regime. Lots has happened that is not the same old Tom Telesco. The same old Tom Telesco, Brandon Staley is not our head coach. I have a hard time believing that the old Tom Telesco is still here. And I do think that Tom Telesco and Brandon Staley are in win now mode. You hear a lot of people talk about rebuilding, retooling. This team, when healthy, on paper, with Brandon Staley, with this offensive line, is in win now mode. Give them Julio Jones on this offense. Lights out. What offense is going to be better than them other than, maybe the Chiefs, maybe the Packers, just because of Aaron Rodgers, if he stays?
Yeah, it would definitely be a short list of offenses that could possibly compare. No question. Let me try to read your statement a little bit, because you and I have had several conversations about this very fact of that whole notion of Tom Telesco no longer being, the stoic type, the sit back, the content Tom Telesco. And we've seen that over this year. And yes, you can start that off with free agency and how aggressive he was to go get Corey Linsley. You can go back 2 years ago when he, as you mentioned, signed 2 of his own in Keenan Allen and Joey Bosa and extending them to huge contracts. As it relates to draft capital, though, if you were to tell me that Tom Telesco was to make a move on this, I'd say, okay, number one, you'd probably get a little bit more positivity out of me on a weekly basis, because I would then see it now. I would have proof that this whole notion that you're making up of Tom Telesco, the old Tom Telesco being gone, is officially gone if he were to do something like this. It's just hard for me to believe.
And I get it.
Yeah, and I get it. And because from a win now perspective, when you have the luxury of having a quarterback on his rookie deal and you can make moves like this, it affords you that opportunity. So do I think that the Chargers are by any means in a rebuilding situation? No. I see this team definitely returning to the playoffs in 2021. But I'm just in that scenario where I need to see it to believe it for a move like this for Tom Telesco.
For folks who are just listening to the podcast, again, you can find us on YouTube by subscribing. Did you just hear the optimist, Jake? 2021 playoffs are on the docket for these Los Angeles Chargers.
Hey, man, I didn't say they were winning the AFC West.
Hey, I'm taking that.
Say they're going to an AFC championship. All right.
Hey, playoffs, it's the start. That's the start.
We get an extra week of football starting this year. Okay, things are going to get interesting. You still have to contend with the Chiefs, the Ravens, all the other up and coming teams from the AFC this year. It's not going to be easy. We went through the schedule. The first 6 weeks for this team are brutal. If you can come out of that with a 3-3 record, that's really the toughest sled of your schedule. And it sucks that it just so happens to be all in the beginning, when we've all seen historically that this team is notorious for starting slow. But
playoffs.
I mean, hey, is it a little bit of a big statement for me to see with a first-time head coach and all these different changes? Yes. People want to say, oh, it's going to be difficult. I even saw Arians throwing just a little bit of comments saying like, hey, changing coordinators and changing coaches isn't always the best thing. This will be the 6th consecutive year
get out of here with
that Justin Herbert has had different coordinators or different coaches or whatever you want to call it. 6th consecutive year.
He's doing okay.
And he just came off of the most impressive rookie season for a quarterback in the history of the NFL. I think you can kind of put that to bed. And I think that Brandon Staley's game plan, along with the coaches that he's going to put around him, are going to put this team in better position to win. So yes, I don't think me saying the Chargers are going to be returning to the playoffs in 2021 is that big of a statement. Now, what are you going to do when you get to the playoffs? That'll be a difference maker.
We've got weeks, we've got months to be able to talk through how deep into the playoffs this Chargers team will go. I will just say this last thing on the Julio Jones piece. Do I think the Chargers could do it? Absolutely. I am definitely higher than 15%. I'm in the
You actually didn't even give me, I was going to say, so what you had 33% is what you
I'm at like a 33%. I feel like it's a 3-team race. I don't think it's a bidding war. I think it's a matter of who's going to have the cap space and willing to part ways with draft capital. Now, we'll get into the specifics if we need to around draft scenarios. Everyone's seen them ad nauseum at this point. Let me just remind you of the scenario going into last season's free agency. Chargers were rumored to be going after a Tom Brady because they were wanting to get ticket sales and they were wanting to kind of get some hype going around this team. Didn't work, thank goodness. He went somewhere else. We got our guy in Justin Herbert. Just put yourself in the eyes of, or in the mindset of Dean Spanos. You're about to go into SoFi, coming off a pandemic. You got a lot of buzz. You finally got offensive line for your offensive rookie of the year. Your guys are healthy as of right now. Bringing in Brandon Staley and then a whole new coaching staff and then Julio Jones. Like, is that not box office? Like, that is pretty on brand. If you look at his history these last couple of years with wanting to get box office in LA to compete with the Rams. Like, it makes sense.
I mean, I get it from that standpoint. It's Hollywood, so it kind of comes with the territory, and for the Chargers being still a team that's really is fighting for a piece of the LA market. And yeah, you're way behind the Rams as far as a fan base goes. But my brain doesn't think from a ticket sale perspective.
Mine doesn't either.
I don't think about that. I don't think about situations to where I think that like a Tim Tebow type of a move is going to get media attention and all of a sudden be the highest jersey sale that's on NFL.com. It doesn't work like that. If I'm Dean Spanos, to me, what situation is putting me in the best situation to win? Now, would Julio Jones definitely fill that bill? Absolutely. But I'm not thinking about butts in the seats first before I'm thinking about actually winning games. You start winning games, then the rest is going to take care of itself.
I totally agree. And I for sure do not want to see this team make decisions based on getting butts in the seats. But there have been rumors that has happened in the past. So I'm just saying, extrapolate that out. Who's to say it wouldn't happen again? So as a whole, there is a chance that the Chargers could get Julio Jones. And if that day comes, holy crap, we are going to be going through roster scenarios and dreams for days. But let's just put that to bed for a bit because I don't want to get anyone's hopes up, yours included, Jake. because I
You
know
already
how
you
excited
already
you'd be.
failed with some of those tweets yesterday that you fired up.
Sorry.
I will do blank if the Chargers acquire Julio Jones.
Did you see some of the answers, by the way? I saw folks talk about like getting tattoos. I saw folks belly flopping in the SoFi River. I mean,
Hey, I like some of those responses. Some of them are what I would donate $100 to his favorite charity. Like that's a good thought. I like
yeah,
that one. But yo, that's a scary thing to put out there in the universe, Dan.
I know, and they did. So I mean, I retweeted some of those. So I'm hoping for their sake and for our sake that they all come true.
Look,
because
I hope it comes true, but for the love of God, just be safe with whatever you're going to do in the aftermath. That's all.
yeah,
That's all I'm saying.
yep. So before we go into the break, I feel this is a good time. I can see in the back corner of your household the brown stuff. This episode.
Sorry, over there.
This episode is brought to you by Garrison Brothers. They are a distillery in Texas. And Jake actually was on vacation. Do you know Garrison Brothers was within 25 minutes of where we were staying at our Airbnb?
And you didn't go?
I didn't know that until
What's
I was
wrong with you?
home from the airport, and my brother-in-law told me that, and I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I absolutely would have gone. So I apologize, Garrison Brothers. Next time I'm in Fredericksburg, I'm making my way to you as well. Garrison Brothers, check them out. They have a fantastic arrangement of whiskeys, bourbons. They are one of the best around. Highly, highly recommend Garrison Brothers, one of the sponsors of Chargers Unleashed. We'll come back after the break. We will talk all things minicamp, rookie camp, and what we are excited for coming up next. Chargers Unleashed.
Welcome back to Chargers Unleashed. Jake Hefner and Dan Wolkenstein here with you from the LAFB Network. Dan, we still got a little bit more to get into on the show. Obviously, that we have the OTAs that are now kicking off, the rookie minicamps that are taking place, the veterans that are coming back. It's nice to just see the team back again. But before we do that, we would be remiss if we did not talk about and bring up Manscaped. Fantastic if you have not gotten the Lawnmower 4.0. Dan, I know you have. Have you utilized it?
I have not. And I'm looking at both of us on screen. I think both of us could use a little trim.
Yeah, obviously, I haven't
hair.
put mine to that good of use.
No, same.
No.
But no, they have fantastic products. We are sponsored by Manscaped. If you go to manscaped.com, use the code UNLEASHED, you'll save 20% and get free shipping. They've got all kinds of stuff. They've got the Lawnmower 4.0. They've got all kinds of like deodorant for your underwear area. They've got great boxers. They've got shirts. They've got mats for all of your needs. Manscaped is kind of stepping up. I see them more and more all over the place. I know everyone's heard of Manscaped at this point, especially if you're listening to Chargers podcast out there. If you need anything for your friend, for yourself, for your significant other, or maybe for your family, use Unleashed. Save 20%, free shipping, manscaped.com. They will thank you. And maybe you'll thank them. Who knows?
I think that there could be some dual thanking going on there. Yeah.
I see it. I can see it.
All right. Enough ball talk. Let's talk football.
Let's talk balls.
Let's talk football.
On the football field.
All right, Dan. I know it's early. I know we've got the rookies coming back into camp. The veterans have joined them this week. It's very early. We're talking day 2 of these two groups finally coming on the field at the same time. But early takeaways, we said it at the beginning of the show. Let's just start it off with the obvious. How good does it feel, whether he's in a cutoff shirt and shorts, and he could dress however he likes right now. It really doesn't matter to me. Having Derwin James back on the field as a full participant, fully cleared to practice participant, it just feels amazing.
I don't care if he wears Baby Gap clothing every day. Put him on the football field. Keep him healthy. Please, 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 please. This team is night and day different with number 33 on this defense. Both on the field and off the field. He brings so much energy, so much elite talent, and just the swag and the overall skill set he brings, you cannot replicate by anyone on this team, nor anyone else in the entire league. He is that good at his position. Put him with Brandon Staley. I cannot wait. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm trying to like temper and just brace. I find myself like just bracing. Not necessarily just Derwin James, but just generally.
This is why, Dan, you asked me the question, why do I have to bring you down to earth time and time and time again? It's because of this right here. I want you to remember this very fact. You saying that you're trying to temper expectations. I try to get you to do that a little bit more often when it comes to this team. Not that I want to be an overall pessimist, but again, I just go off of what history has told me, my friend. And I try to not get my hopes up either. Is it great to see at this point of the year? You're damn right. Does it mean anything right now? No, it doesn't. But at the same time, just try to temper your expectations a little bit. But you know what? It's May. It's the off season. We got to have something to get excited about. So by all means, you know what? Go ahead and let your emotions go. Go ahead and for the next 20 minutes, be the most positive Dan Wolkenstein that you can be.
Oh, I don't think the world is ready for that yet.
I'm not ready for it, but you know what?
Let's say the Chargers make it through the offseason, make it through preseason with the roster fully intact.
Oh, I'm already regretting.
Do you know how much buzz this team? We already have apparently the Coach of the Year, MVP candidate, Comeback Player of the Year, all on the same team. Rookie of the Year candidate. I mean, and that's without a ball being snapped.
Damn.
I'm telling you, dude. I'm telling you, if this team can make it through preseason healthy, they will be. I'll put it right now. They will be a top 10 team at minimum by the start of week 1 on polls.
I mean, I don't think that's. I think that's a fair assessment to say top 10 team, but you better be knocking on every piece of wood that you can find. Okay, if you're walking along the street and you walk past a bar that just so happens to be of wood, knock on that.
We all need to.
I'm not kidding. Knock on, oak trees, even if it's not really wood. I don't care. The statement that you just said, Dan, I just hope to God it's not a kiss of death. Okay. We already saw what happened last year, and we don't even need to talk about what happened to Derwin James in training camp, but to extrapolate that a little bit more, what happened on the second defensive series in the first game last year? You know what it is that happened.
Yeah, that was ugly.
We could barely even get time to breathe, and Drew Tranquil is out for the season in week 1. So I'm going to give you a pass because it's May. And yes, you can come up with all these beautiful situations about potential health.
Hey, you asked me to go 20 minutes as the most optimistic Dan, and I go three minutes.
I can barely handle 5 minutes of you doing it. But we're talking about health. Yes, to answer your question, to me, it would be amazing. It would be amazing. And yes, to your statement, as far as them being a top 10 team coming in week 1, I don't think that anybody would disagree with that. No, even with the schedule that they have for the first 6 weeks, a fully healthy Chargers roster with certain players back in this system that you didn't get a chance to have for a majority of last year, 100%.
Let me ask you this. Off the cuff, we'll go rapid fire real quick. How confident are you, 1 to 10, in, we'll go quick categories, offensive line week 1? How confident are you in that group?
I'll go as far as to say you're going to get better production out of this group than what you got out of last year's group.
Well,
one, because across the board, there's more talent there. But we can't just think that this offensive line, even though you literally replaced 4/5 of your offensive line via free agents, via the draft. And even though it is the likes of guys like Matt Filer, Ode Abouche, Corey Linsley, and then Rashawn Slater to pair with Brian Bulaga, that's still going to take some gelling. Okay. And even from Justin Herbert's standpoint, you go to Dan Feeney to Corey Linsley now, there's going to be some learning curves with them just from, them getting used to one another, especially from Corey Linsley's standpoint, getting used to now two guys that are on either side of him that he totally different in Green Bay. So you're still going to have some learning curves, and this offensive line is it's not going to be flawless coming out of the gate. Just remember that. All your hopes are is that you get better results out of it on a week-to-week basis than what you got last year. And hopefully as the season progresses, this line gets better and better and better. And more importantly, I don't want to see 16 different combinations of rotating offensive linemen across the board here. You had that, it feels like for the last 2 or 3 years that it's been that same scenario. Oh yeah, the best 5 are going to play. Well, the best 5 that you usually expect to play aren't healthy enough to be out on the field. So you have this other 5 that are out there to play. It's not really the best that's going to play. Historically for the Chargers, it's been the 5 healthiest.
The only 5 available. There.
Yeah, the only 5 available is what you got. So my expectations for them are that, yes, they will be better than the lines that we have seen traditionally over the last couple of years, but temper expectations early on in the season because they're going to need to gel. And yes, you get the preseason back. Yes, you get the on-field training camp back, which is something that you didn't have last year, which is going to benefit everyone. But still, just temper it a bit, but know that you should get better results than what you got in 2020.
Okay, so there's a reason I'm asking you this. So last year, if we graded, skip the 1 to 10, if we graded the offensive line play last year, A to F, what say you? G, H?
Yeah, man, you better find a letter grade that doesn't exist yet.
Okay, so let's say when they're gelled, let's say week 6, whatever. What are your expectations for a letter grade with the performance of our offensive line? Ballpark.
Ballpark, I'd say what's fair is a solid B by that standpoint.
Okay.
Again,
so from F to B.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I think the second most important glaring hole that this team had was the secondary. We had Rashawn Jenkins leave, Desmond King left last year, Casey Hayward left last year. We were able to sign Michael Davis. We got Asante Samuel Jr. We added Mark Webb. We're getting Derwin James back. As a whole, how would you grade 2020's secondary, A to F?
Well, if I have to see as much zone defense as I watched last year, I think I'm going to puke. Not to say that I won't see it in 2021, but if I always have to see it in those type of scenarios at the end of the game in the fourth quarter, and
I wonder what's going to happen next.
Exactly. Somebody's going to catch it. That's all you could really predict at that standpoint, that the secondary was going to let you down. You're getting back an all-pro caliber player that you didn't have last year, and one that I will believe will be utilized the way that Gus Bradley utilized him when he was healthy during his rookie season. You saw how this secondary thrived with the leadership and playmaking ability that Derwin James had when he was back there. I'm really interested to see, finally, that we've been waiting for the past 2 years on, if this team's faith in former second-round pick Nasir Adderley, if what Daniel Jeremiah said right when Nasir Adderley was drafted, that this was the perfect player complement to how Derwin James plays the strong safety position. I've been waiting for it. We've all been waiting for it. I want to see what these two are going to do from a tandem perspective. Yes, you get Mike Davis to return. And now you throw in Asante Samuel Jr. there for your outside corner positions. And let's not forget the veteran leadership of one Chris Harris Jr. Just saying that on paper has the potential to be something, if all parties are, of course, healthy, that has the potential to be a legitimate secondary. And it's not me trying to hype the train up. It's just you have a group of dogs back there. You really do. Even from newcomers like Asante Samuel Jr., Mike Davis is getting better and has been on a year-by-year basis. And if this combination that's the safety position that we are hoping for is what it is, what everybody expected it to be, there could be some fireworks.
Now, the reason I'm saying this is if we go across all of the position groups on this Chargers team, offense, defense, special teams, arguably the only category or position that may have gotten worse is tight end. But that has kind of been substituted by kind of a dual threat. We got McKitty for the blocking part. We got Jared Cook for the receiving part. Both of those combined, I feel like, is kind of like a Hunter Henry. Takes up more of a roster spot, but more or less. But I'll still say Hunter Henry was better than that. Other than that, every single position group on this team, I would argue, and I think you would agree, is better. Linebacking core, get Drew Tranquil back. Immediately better. And you get Matt Filer back. Defensive line, Nwosu. Ingram didn't do much last year. I feel like that might be net even, maybe a little more positive for putting Fackrell in that standpoint. We got the safety group, obviously better. Corner group, going from Chris Harris, Michael Davis, and Casey Hayward. Swap out Casey Hayward, Asante Samuel Jr. I mean, Casey Hayward wasn't terrible last year, but he wasn't great. I think Asante Samuel Jr. has a much higher ceiling than him. Receiving core, Josh Palmer has been added. Running back, let's call it net the same. You'd think your quarterback plays would be just as good. Like, coaching staff is through the roof better. Like, not even close. Like, that's what people are excited about. That we've gotten better at the most important areas. And not just a little bit better. Like, much better. We're going from, like, GF rating offensive lineman to potentially a B. To be able to see, like, that potential in mini camps, OTAs, and seeing some of these young guys already getting hyped up by some of the veterans already is like, that's exciting. Like, it's hard not to be excited. And I'm sure all 32 fan bases for all 32 teams could say the same thing. But they all cannot say that on paper their team should be in championship contention. They just can't. There's probably 5 to 10 teams maybe that can say that. And we are one of those 10 teams.
Yeah, not every team can say that. I'm waiting for the day that it ends up translating from paper to field.
Agreed.
Show me some results. I'm sick and tired of saying that phrase, on paper right now. Yeah, the Chargers look great. How many years have we been saying this? How many times have we heard the analysts in preseason say, oh yeah, the Chargers are a sleeper Super Bowl contender? I'm sick and tired of hearing that over and over and over again. Not because I hate people being optimistic for this team, but come on, let's look at the history. You have to look at the intangibles of everything, not just the talent on the field. How are they coached? And I think the biggest TBD in this and the biggest anomaly is Brandon Staley.
Agreed.
Because we still have to remember that while we love the philosophy and the energy that he's brought to the head coaching position and the rest of his staff, and just how it seems like everything is going to mold his way, and we see what he's done in his past coordinator positions, he's still a first-time head coach. So again, if this was still an Anthony Lynn-led team, we'd probably be able to go through and pick this out a little bit better and have a better anticipation of how this team is going to be run, how it's going to look. But we really don't know.
Who the hell knows?
Really have no idea.
That's probably what's most exciting about this whole thing is, like, your guess is as good as mine, is as good as Daniel Jeremiah's, is as good as nobody knows what this team is going to look like. Like, we can predict, we can hope, but
it's too early for that. Don't even talk to me about predictions right now.
No, but there's just so many moving parts. And it's like being an air traffic controller and you're trying to land 37 planes all at the same time. That's what Brandon Staley is trying to do right now with this whole team. Coaching staff, players, training. I mean, that's tough.
Here you go. I'll give you a short wish list. All right. Expectations right now are extremely low. And I'll give you just a short wish list of 3 things that I would like to see from this team throughout this season. And it doesn't even have to matter from a standpoint of wins and losses. Ready for this?
Get your pens and paper ready, folks.
Everybody should have at least one of these on the top part of their list. Special teams, just improve. You don't even have to be the best in the league. Hell, you don't even have to be top 10 for crying out loud. Just improve. You literally cannot go any lower than what you did in 2020. And I think that certain moves that Tom Telesco did, whether it's free agency or the draft, and even from a coaching standpoint, I think that those pieces are in place for them to be more successful. The kicking situation, time will tell on that. We'll see if someone remains with the money or if he's going to go bankrupt again.
Uh-oh. And I will say real quick, Chargers acknowledge how important this is and how much work was needed. They went out and signed. We got 2 kickers, got a whole bunch of guys that were drafted that are special teams aces and will be helping there. So this is an important section of the team that Brandon Staley needs to fix and wants to fix ASAP.
Second thing I don't expect to happen. If the Chargers go to run it on first down and they gain either no yards or negative yards, if I see them run it on a 2nd and 13 again, I don't know what I'm going to do yet.
Like a running back draw.
Okay. And I'm not naive. Is that probably going to happen in 2021? Yes. Just don't do it on a week in and week out basis, for crying out loud. My expectations of Brandon Staley, while they are still up in the air right now, I do expect him to be more creative than the former regime that was here.
He was hired because of innovation.
And number 3, and that's another one that should just be very easy, that you can't go any lower than this. For the love of God, blitz. Blitz. You have a former 2nd-round pick now in the final year of his contract in Uchenna Nwosu that was barely utilized last year because you had a former coaching staff that favored the veterans.
Friend of the show.
And didn't want to put out a guy out there for more than 17 or 19 snaps, even when the pass rush wasn't working. It didn't matter.
That's still insane that
it's
was
still
the case
nuts
last
to
year.
say that. But with Joey Bosa, with Uchenna Nwosu, as we had mentioned, Kyler Fackrell added to this team in free agency, and now you get Chris Rumpf. Again, I think that this entire defensive line, as we've already seen them in OTAs, they've been in 3-4 fronts. So you could see a completely different formatted defense than what you have. I think Jerry Tillery is now going to move from his edge position that he was in for a majority of the time last year. Now kick him back inside and put him next to Linval Joseph, and now obviously with Justin Jones next to him. The interior of this defensive line still is scary to me a bit, but for the love of God, just blitz,
pressure.
Just blitz. Seriously. I like that. Practice pressure. That should be just a motto for this team. Figure out your player personnel, figure out what's working, why the hell go away from it. But this team should have a much higher blitz percentage than it had in 2020. That's my list. I don't think it's too much to ask. It's not too much on the wish list. I think Santa Claus can give this to me. It's not that difficult to figure it out. Those 3 things right now should be easy expectations for this team to improve on.
Special teams, being aggressive on 2nd and long,
blitz,
i.e. not running.
Oh yeah, yeah. Second and 17. This looks like a great opportunity for us to try to fool them to run the ball. Yeah.
So we've gone through quite a bit. It's been a few weeks since we've been able to just kind of go through how we've felt with what's happened. We're going to have some more special guests coming up in the coming weeks. Can't wait for you guys and gals to see and hear them. We actually have a really fun event going on, part of the LAFB Network. On June 5th, we actually have some folks who have won the giveaway who are going to be joining us on the field at SoFi. We're going to be kicking field goals, going into the opponents in the Chargers locker room. We're going to be throwing touchdowns, doing snow angels, may do some Instagram live, who knows. But we are going to be on the field, on the turf, chilling at SoFi on June 5th. You guys will see all kinds of pictures and videos. Can't wait for that. I wonder if our friends over at Charger Bolt family are going to be there too. They might be there. They might be there. I think they might be going. So if you haven't heard, Charger Bolt family, incredible memorabilia that you can actually get signed by some of your favorite players. They actually have Dan Fouts coming up here in a bit, which was awesome. Another friend of the show. They already had Justin Herbert, LaDainian Tomlinson. They've had Keenan Allen, Derwin James, you name it. Check out Charger Bolt family. You can see them on Facebook, Charger Bolt family. They're also on Instagram as well. Tell them Dan and Jake sent you from Chargers Unleashed. Say hi to Ken for us. I think that's it, Jake. Anything else you want to touch on before we dip out of here?
That's all I got, man. I'm just happy that to see these guys back on the field, but at the same time, you know, when you see them without pads on, it reminds you that it is still late May, and we've got a little bit of time left before training camp. But get hyped because people will be allowed in training camp in 2021.
It's the end of May.
Get excited.
All of the Chargers are currently healthy.
I'm telling you, dude, from now until
every day,
Chargers, from now until week 1, you are not allowed to not knock on wood. All right. And I should actually require you to send me a video documenting every single day between now and September.
You got it. Deal. All right, guys. This is Chargers Unleashed. We are out. Again, you can find us on Twitter at LAC_Unleashed, Instagram, Spotify, podcasts, Facebook. I don't think I'm missing any. Find us everywhere. You can find Jake T. Hefner on Twitter for Jake, myself at Chargers Homer. Cannot wait to continue this ride with you guys. Chargers are looking good. Future is bright. And Brandon Staley and Telesco we trust. And we will talk to you next time on Chargers Unleashed.